From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt. Our colleague Noel is off on an adventure, but will return very soon.
They call me Ben. We're joined, as always, with our super producer, Dylan, the Tennessee pal Fagan. Most importantly, you are you. You are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know, and we are so pleased that you would join us this evening on May 22nd, 2025. In fact, Dylan, Matt, and I have had some dreams about this moment occurring, and we're going to tell you why our dreams are, in this sense, predictive, or in this case. But before we do that, we've got to get a little bit Jungian and dig through the super consciousness for some rutabagas.
I sense a disturbance in the rutabagas.
What? What? How did you even? Wow.
We are never not doing this bit, folks. We hope you enjoy it. If you are irritated, if you don't think it's as cool as we do, then we kindly invite you to write directly to our complaint department, Jonathan Strickland at iHeartMedia.com. Available 24 hours in the evening, 7 nights a week.
Make sure to include specifics on how you would improve the Rutabagas segment.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Walk us through it. And we also are aware that there's a ton of purported dream interpretation, right? Symbolism of dreams. And Matt, I was looking this up earlier before we recorded. There are even entries or theories or interpretations about what a rutabaga means in a dream. According to AskDreamOracle.com, a source with which we are not super familiar, dreaming about a rutabaga expresses that, quote, if you are single, love will knock on your door very soon. You are doing your best, trying to balance various aspects of your life. The truth will be the perfect ingredient for trust to grow in your relationships.
What?
I don't know. It goes on. Do you want to hear the rest or what?
I'm going to counter you with Psychologist World that says to see turnips growing, or rutabagas, denotes that your prospects will brighten and that you will be much elated over your success.
There we go. I like that. I like this daily newspaper horoscope column vibe for the rutabaga. A friend will ask you to forgive something that happened a long time ago and that hurt you at the time. There is a force that is drawing you toward a certain direction, thinking, or habit.
What?
You're not letting anyone stand in the way of your goals.
For a young woman to sow turnip seed foretells that she will inherit good property and win a handsome husband.
So there's a lot of romance to dream rutabagas that we were not aware of, right? It's fair to say neither of us were aware of this.
Well, we know now.
We know now. And if we knew then what we know now, right? This is our listener mail segment. We're going to do something different because previously on Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, we went through yet another of our dream phases, and we asked all of our fellow listeners, all of us playing along at home, to share dreams that stood out to us in some way, particularly dreams that appear to violate the known laws of physical or linear time, by which we mean dreams that predict or foretell the future. This is an ancient belief. It is quite controversial in the world of modern accepted science. However, statistically speaking, you have yourself experienced something like this, or you have met someone who believes they have experienced something like that. So we're going to hear from Cant Sleep. We're going to talk with Cheese. We're going to take a word from our sponsors. And then, I don't know, Matt, what do you think? Maybe we start with old Calamari?
Calamari it is. And we've returned, jumping straight to Calamari. Calamari says, on a recent episode, you all asked listeners to submit experiences involving prophetic dreams. I've experienced a handful of dreams that have come true in the past, usually involving things associated with strong emotional attachments. The first occurred when I was in grade 4. When these do happen, they don't feel like normal dreams. They're more like a memory. I say that because I can remember distinct details like smells. Jumping out for a second, we just talked about that.
Right.
Smells very strong in dreams, though not for me for some reason, specifically. I don't know
But
why.
they don't. The interesting thing here, Calamari, is that a lot of people do not report smells in dreams.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump back in. Calamari says, I can remember distinct details like smells, the way dust particles move through nearby sunlight, how a person is positioned, or what they're doing during the dream. One dream kind of confused me because in it, I was talking to my mom as she was cooking breakfast. I suddenly started talking gibberish. We do know that communication is sometimes very strange in dreams. Often it has been reported that writing or like looking at language is difficult to understand or incomprehensible.
Which is weird because, again, like the studies regarding smell or olfactory stimuli, I'm not bragging. I can read in dreams and actually read a lot of cool in there. But I don't know if I should have cursed on that one, but you're absolutely right, Matt. It is common that due to dream logic, the dreamer can understand a thing and can recognize the symbolic platform or avenue of communication. This character is speaking. This book is open. I am reading this piece of mail or whatever. But then if you try to concentrate on it, even lucid dreamers can find that quite difficult.
Oh, yeah. I find that difficult. Jumping back to Calamari. Calamari says, we're having the dream about mom cooking, smelling, everything. Otherwise, it was much like my other dreams that have come true. The following morning, I went into the kitchen because I could smell that breakfast was being made and saw mom standing there preparing things as she cooked. I walked over to talk to her, and as we began talking, I realized that the way the sunlight was coming through the window, how my mom was moving, along with other details, that things were going exactly as they were in my dream. Now let's talk about that really quickly. Seeing mom cooking breakfast around the same time in the morning, how just realistically, if we pull back completely as objective as we can,
because she's already in situ, in media res, she's already cooking, which means smells are being generated.
Smells are being generated. The light is probably coming in through the window in a way that you have seen before because of, this is the way the sun enters your home at this time of day during breakfast time. She moves the way mom moves. So she's moving in the same mannerisms, the same, movements of her legs and her arms that she always does. Just saying, this doesn't mean, in my mind, or think objectively, that dream version of mom doing that thing exactly that way, looking like this, is because of the dream. It could be, this is what mom looks like making breakfast.
But here's the interesting part, though, right? Because it continues. And I agree with you. So, Calamari, you continue and you say, I walked over to her as we began talking. I realized the way the sunlight was coming in through the window, how my mom was moving, like you said, Matt, other details. Everything is exactly as it was in my dream. I started to tell her about my dream. Then I realized I needed to head outside and told her what was going to happen. And it did. Importantly, Calamari does not clarify the predictive hinge here, right? This is deep deja vu in a way. And it was only years later, says Calamari, as I was telling a friend about this, that it dawned on me why I was speaking nonsense during that part of the dream. It was the part where I started telling my mom about the dream from the previous night. I guess, says Calamari, my adolescent brain, when I was about 13 or 14, wasn't prepared for that. And then Calamari provides us some very kind words, but also an impetus for investigation.
Yes.
We need to know what the predictive thing was.
Was it significant? Was it something small like a robin's going to land on that branch right now? Was it a dog's going to get hit by a car out here? You know,
Right.
like, what was the thing?
What was the thing? And we need to know what the thing was, especially because in our opening statement here, Calamari, we say the dreams that come true have strong emotional connection, right, or resonance, and that's something fascinating. We thought this was an especially great correspondence because of that nature of smelling a thing, right? And it's pretty clear, I would say, that Matt Dillon and I strongly suspect and are asking if maybe the smell that was happening in the real world informed your cognition or your virtual reality. But to know that, we have to know exactly what you were asking about, dude. Is it something small that changes? Is this we're not going to date you too hard, but you're 13, 14. Did you walk out and learn of a significant historical event at the time? You know?
Well, yeah. What I want to know is, was your mom cooking the morning that you were having that dream?
Right. That's exactly the question. Yeah.
Because many of our dreams, at least our most vivid ones, occur right before waking. Like those intense dreams, the dream state that you get into where you wake up and you remember stuff. That's right before you wake up. And if right before you wake up you smell bacon or something, and you're smelling it while you're asleep,
and you're hearing the sounds of cooking, perhaps, these things can all inform these experiences. Please check out an episode that we did quite recently on the concept of dream incubation, targeted manipulation of the dream state. Full disclosure, we just recorded that one. We have not heard it yet. Maybe you have in another plane of existence.
Dude. Well, you know, I actually want to, Ben, could we jump to the phone lines in this section?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do one here.
Let's do one, because it reminds me of something a caller said recently. Let's jump to Cant Sleep.
Hey, guys, this is Cant Sleep. Love listening to you guys. I know a while back, I hope I'm not too late, you guys were talking about calling in to talk about dreams, and I had a really crazy experience. So I always listen to a podcast when I go to sleep. Most of the time, it's your guys' podcast, unless I've already listened to it. But I woke up the next day, and I had the craziest dream. And then I've always been interested in dreams. So I was looking at like interpreting them. I have this one dream interpreting app that seems to be like right on point every time about what things mean. But on this particular occasion, everything I wrote in the dream app, nothing really came up that triggered anything that was going on. So I thought it was just kind of strange what I was dreaming about. Then I listened to this podcast about dreams. I forget where or when. And the guy was saying, this psychology professor was saying, like, dreams are basically when you're asleep, if your brain and your ears hear noises or hear someone talking, it tries to best interpret what it's hearing and putting it into like visual form, like almost like a rebus, like it sends you images based on whatever you're hearing while you're asleep because your brain's trying to tell you. So I thought that was really interesting. And then the next night, I was listening to a podcast, which was the next one on my list after the one that I had gone to bed listening to earlier the day before. And they were talking about like a golf course in Thailand and how they had to clear a bunch of trees and people were upset. And I had dreamt about driving a golf cart on the branches of trees, which was really, really crazy because the guy had said that when you're asleep and you're hearing someone talking, that it will try to speak to you via images in your head, in your dreams, right? And so that was it. And I was just blown away. So I think sometimes dreams are based on what we're feeling, but a lot of times, like if you fall asleep with the TV on or you're listening to a podcast, your brain is actually turning those words you're hearing into images in your head. It just blew my mind. So anyways, love your guys' show. Have a good one.
There we go.
Agreed.
Right? It reminds me of what Calamari's saying, but in this case, in Calamari's bacon, oh, so much food, I'm hungry. But in this case, it's any sounds, any sensory input, basically. Your brain is specifically turning that into visual imagery, mostly visual imagery, because that's at least the method of internal communication that's going on.
And it's racing through pre-established synaptic routes. That's an important part of the translation exercise. We can't thank you enough for taking the time to contact us, man, because this is speaking directly to some stuff that we were exploring together over the years and in previous evenings. I would say another way to think about it, or to dovetail on this, would be to consider it a matter of translation, yes, but perhaps more importantly, a matter of contextualization within the pre-existing sleep pattern or dream. I remember back when I used to drink soda. That's right, I was wild. And I stopped drinking soda. I had a similar invasive sort of stimuli clearly affecting me. It was very like native advertising. I was fighting another ancient vampire, and then midway through like the climactic third act, of all the daring do and John Wickery of fighting, the enemy paused and said, okay, time out, and then held up a can of Coca-Cola Classic, cracked it open, drank it with that typical, we all know the Coke sound, like
I'll try and get it for you here.
all right, hang on.
Dr. Pepper.
Gross. And no hesitation. So anyway, the dream progressed, or whatever version of reality I was in, and I later woke. It was just after sunset, and a person in the same area had literally opened up a can of something. And that must have been the external stimuli added to the previous context of existence that had triggered that. This does not mean these are predictive. It doesn't mean they're violating linear time, but already just in the beginning of this listener mail, we see that there are a lot of baffling things at play, some of which science has yet to explain. I'm a crackhead for soda, man. Do you still drink soda?
Every once in a while, I'll let myself have a cheer wine or something as or one of those bottled Coca-Colas from Mexico.
The glass ones.
Yep.
Cane sugar.
Yep. Oh, or if I'm feeling really squirrely.
Yeah.
A Pepsi, I think it's called Zero now. I don't know. Pepsi Zero Sugar Cherry.
Pepsi Zero Sugar Cherry.
Something like that.
Sounds like an operation we would be conducting if we weren't doing podcast.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, dang, what's my aspartame intake like this week? I guess I could have one.
Fast forward to Dylan saying, Senator, again, I can neither confirm nor deny any knowledge of what you call Pepsi Zero Sugar Cherry.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. It's something like that. Oh, dude, wait, no, dude, I must be a soda fiend still. I didn't even realize I was.
What's up?
My son, if he does something extraordinary, his reward that he wants is an IBC root beer. That's what he wants. A glass bottled IBC root beer.
Kid likes root beer. I always said he had sophisticated taste. That's pretty advanced palate, actually, isn't it?
I don't know. It's delicious.
Yeah. Root beer is a dumb name for a thing that's not that bad.
Sarsaparilla.
Sarsaparilla sounds better. It's got a better mouthfeel, And shout out to our British friends. Barley water is also not near as bad as it sounds.
Barley tea, just to go off the barley is delicious.
Yeah, it's great, man. Barley is underrated, just like the rutabaga. We're going to pause for a word from our sponsors. We'll return with more messages from you. We have returned. We're going to hear from Telencore. Telencore, you said the following. Hey guys, you can call me Tellencore. Feel free to use that name and my message on the air if you wish. That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool nickname. We'll use your real name too if you want. No judgment, but just let us know. And you say, Tellencore, in the most recent Strange News program, you asked for people to send in predictive dream experiences. Hopefully you aren't regretting it. We don't. And you're not drowning in responses already. We are. But I wanted to share one that I had. Pretty mundane, but it's always stuck with me. Back in the year 2000, I was in the midst of reading Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series and was eagerly awaiting the soon-to-be-released Winter's Heart. I was right there with you, man. A few weeks before the book was released, I had a dream that I had picked up a copy of the book, and upon waking, I had a very clear memory of exactly what the cover of the book looked like. When I went to pick up this book in real life, to my amazement, the cover art was exactly as I had pictured it in the dream. Okay, so first question, did you see the cover art, liminally or subliminally and forget? Or was something else at play?
Now, this is a tough one for me because we're talking about the year 2000.
Yes.
So AOL was a thing.
Sure.
You could get on the old Netscapes and a couple different ways to access the internet. Maybe
Sure.
there was a really low-res version of this art online somewhere.
Yeah, on a bulletin board, on some forum, etc.
But
Maybe.
And by the way, did it come out in 2000 or did it come out in like a couple years later, like 2003? Because that changes things. 3 years of the internet changes things.
Yes, yeah, even back then. And with that in mind, Tellencore, you continue directly to your point, Matt, and you say this was before the internet made it almost impossible to avoid spoilers for such things. So, anticipating our question, Tellencore says, I don't believe I had somehow seen a picture of it before release and then dreamed of it for that reason. Like I said, it's pretty trivial, but it has stayed with me. I wish I could have done the same for lotto numbers at some point, but no luck so far. Which also makes me think, what if you have a dream about lottery numbers, but the probabilities are so nuanced that by observing that sequence of numbers, even in a dream, you alter the reality of the waking world?
Dude.
I mean, no, but but it's fun to think about.
So let's talk about this cover really quickly, that if there was no spoiler, how do you imagine, how many characters is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters and 3 horses on a cover like this? Is that, I haven't read the Wheel of Time series. Is this generally what the covers look like? Are they all the characters like this?
There are varying characters on the cover. So on the cover of different installments of the series, it is generally going to be that same art style for the original publications. What we see, oh gosh, I don't want to get too into detail here, but not all of these are the main characters. There are many characters in the Wheel of Time series. But yeah, this is apropos to the previous books in the series. This is the 9th book of the Wheel of Time, and this looks like if you didn't have the language on there that says Winter's Heart, Book 9, Wheel of Time, author name, stuff like that, then it might look like a somewhat generic or unidentifiable scene from a fantasy novel. And look, the art is great, by the way. We're not, when we say generic, we just mean without the language. You might be able to confuse this with other paintings of interesting people on a snowy mountaintop.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know the story, so I have no idea who these folks are or what they're doing. But I can't imagine that being just a generic image, that you conjure. If Tellencore dreamed that and then that's what it was and he hadn't seen it, that would be pretty cool.
It's fascinating. I think we're asking the right question too about the prevalence of the internet or online discourse at that moment. And honestly, I would posit that if people think, we got to be careful, we don't want to prime folks too much, Matt, but I would posit that anyone listening, if you think about it long enough, you will remember or feel that you remember a dream you cannot explain. That is in some way seems in retrospect predictive or clairvoyant or conveyed to you somehow information that you don't believe you would have acquired otherwise.
Hmm.
I don't know. Do you think so? I feel like also that's putting our thumb on the scale just a little bit, because when you ask people to think about a specific thing that relates to them, depending on how you deploy the language, they're going to find something, you know?
Oh, for sure. We talked about that. That's why all those horoscopes work, and those dream interpreters and all that other stuff.
No, they're right about the rutabagas. We
Oh,
agree.
for sure.
That part's
Rutabagas,
factual.
handsome husbands all around. Okay, so let's jump quickly because this also relates to a caller. Cheese
Yes.
called in, and I think this goes right to what we're talking about here with Telencore.
Hey guys, this is Cheese, longtime listener. What I wanted to talk about is dreams that I have had in the past that were just innocent dreams or, premonitions or imaginations, the moments of imagination of me as a child. Later on, things that were not necessarily pivotal to my existence, but there's a lot of energy and memory around those moments. And they were moments that I had that energy from before I had those moments as a memory, if that makes sense. So there's specifically a time when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I imagined myself working at a bar in a black shirt. And around the time that I worked at that bar, I did have a black shirt. And I did work at a bar that was very similar to the vision that I had when I was a child, which I don't necessarily think it was a vision. Again, I can't remember if it was me dreaming. And this is all based on memory. So, take it for what it is. However, there have been multiple instances of that where throughout my childhood, I would have had a memory or a dream or a thought that's similar to a deja vu moment, where later on in my life, I would actualize these moments and then kind of like point to myself like, oh, I manifested them or something of that regard. However, there is also recently that study that kind of proves that the electrons that exist in every moment in time have been in every moment in time. And with the way that the human mind works and with the way that information is processed and transferred and how we're all kind of like acting as one large motion picture all at once, if you take the human consciousness out of observing the human consciousness, then you do kind of get this just like all encompassing motion picture that is all taking place within itself almost instantaneously, because again, if you don't have a human consciousness, you're unable to like observe that time. But those are just some, things to think about. I'm running up on my time, so I'm gonna go ahead and just say that I love your guys' show, and I hope that you guys keep up the good work. Cheese out.
Cheese out. Cheese out is our, we collect catchphrases, man, and you just nailed it. Cheese out.
Munster Audi.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic stuff here. This concept of taking human consciousness out of observing consciousness goes back to the old days, Ben, with the Grant Morrison stuff, the snake that is existence, right? Like if you can imagine a human being in every place they have ever been, like every physical place on the planet they've ever been, and then just add that as one snake that goes all the way from the beginning until death.
Did you ever read the graphic novels based on H.P. Lovecraft's work, Providence? Also, Nameless is another good one for this, and I know you love Nameless. Nameless is an age-appropriate buddy comedy in space for everyone. Buy it for children.
Stop. It looks like it would be. It looks like it on the front.
But I'm bringing these two tangentially related works of hopefully fiction to bear here because that they both explore the concept of the trappings of linear experience of time. Yeah,
and I don't know that specific study that Cheese is referring to about the electrons that exist in every moment in time have existed in every moment. I don't know or understand that necessarily.
Yeah.
That's above my head, at least in this moment as we're discussing everything. I get the everything everywhere all at once concept, maybe.
Yeah, it's there. It's part of it goes into the mystery around their designated sort of orbital routes. Like if every electron is a mailman or a planet,
Yeah.
why do they also seem to exist outside of where they're predicted to be? Do check out our episode recently published on whether or not we can break physics, which gets into a little bit of this.
Yep. It just makes you feel unsettled in my experience. But that's okay. That's okay. What was the other thing we were talking about recently? That humans with our consciousness decode information 1 second per second.
Yes.
And then time, though, however, can function very differently outside of our observation of it. So that concept, again, hurts my brain a bit, but I can understand that because our processing power is a 1 second per second unit.
Top proven speed so far.
But if you imagine, the way you can capture light at incredible broken down speeds with certain like phantom cameras and other cameras like that, where you can truly see stuff moving at a whole different speed if it were interpreted that way.
It's fascinating. It's also a question of that outside perspective, right? Please don't confuse what we're saying as a beat by beat exploration of ego death, which is another philosophical concept, right? But the idea then is that, let's expand it a little further, a being from a different set of dimensions or with different sensory equipment to experience the universe in a different manner. It may look at human beings in a very bizarre way, depending upon how you perceive time. People might just look like a series of segmented worm moments of movement and age that all exist as their own sort of little individual spaghetti string.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fun at parties.
Yeah, spaghetti guys. Just a couple spaghetti guys over here.
Welcome to Ultimate Reality. Everyone is a creepy fun doodle. Or what are those guys called? Inflatable guys? Car stores?
Used car air dancer boys.
There we go. Used car air dancer boys. It also reminds us of maybe one of the best ways to put the science into spirituality here is the old work by the legendary David Foster Wallace. I'm paraphrasing, but it's like an old fish in the ocean goes and passes by these other two fish who are younger. And the old fish says, "Hey boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish are like, whatever, old man. And they swim around for a little bit. And then one of them looks at the other one and says, "What the is water?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe that's time for humans.
Yeah. I mean, our sensory organs developed in this space, right?
Right.
And at this speed. And as you're saying, if it's extra dimensional, especially, then we would be very funky looking and acting, and we'd seem really slow, I bet.
I stay funky. Ask my dry cleaner.
Stay funky, Ben.
Stay funky, Matt. You too, Dylan.
Stay funky, everyone. We'll be right back after another word from our sponsors.
And we have returned. Before we get into our final piece of correspondence from our fellow listeners this evening, we thought it would be appropriate to, we don't do this often, but to maybe share vivid or inexplicable dreams that we have personally encountered. We're not saying that anyone can tell the future. That has not been proven yet. Good luck, DARPA. But we are hoping to communicate that a lot of people have experienced things they cannot explain. So who do we put on the spot first? Dylan, any weird dreams? Or do you want to tell us about a dream that terrified you?
A dream that terrified me.
Or a
Well,
dream that predicted the future? We're giving you options, man.
I don't have any that predicted the future. I just, we were talking off air about when I was playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild when it came out a few years ago, that there's these creatures called Lynels that look like centaurs and lions put together. They're very large, and they move really quickly in the game, and they're like one of the bigger battles. And I would play it for hours on end, and it started slipping into my dreams and giving me nightmares where I was having to fight a Lynel and I would never win.
Oh, wow.
Dude.
That's exactly, you know what, that's perfect, because we talked earlier too, in multiple episodes about how people can be primed by that kind of repetitive stimulus or stimuli. That's why you will dream of Tetris inevitably if you play it too often. I think we all did that. And then also, depending on whether or not your waking mind is cognizant of the things that have been pushed into your brain, you may feel like you are predicting the future. You know what I mean? I hope you don't run into a Lionel. We hope you don't.
I hope that's not predictive. Yeah.
Okay. That's such a good news, bad news. Good news, you've discovered an entirely new life form. Bad news.
They're out to get you.
Yeah, they're out to get you. That's funny. That's like bringing back, what is it? Resurrecting the mammoth. I would love a headline that comes out in, Pop Sci or TMZ or something. It says, good news, we've resurrected mammoths. Bad news, they're dicks. Like just the worst 1980s version of a rude person. You know what I mean? Like mammoths steal skateboards and vape or whatever.
Yeah.
No, it's the 80s. They would be smoking cigarettes.
Definitely parliaments. Okay.
Yeah, predictive dream. You got a dream you can't explain?
No, I don't. I just have weird dreams. Sorry, that's all I got.
No worries. One briefly. This is I don't want to be too specific, but this is in a category that may be distressingly common to a lot of us listening along tonight. A dream that doesn't necessarily tell you to do a thing, but tells you to avoid a thing. This is not uncommon in parts of my family. There are multiple anecdotes. I don't have a bunch of, I don't have much other than anecdotal evidence for this, but I have at several junctures, I have received a dream that tells me, not to hop on a bus, right? Or not to get in the car and go in this place, right? And then the next day, something terrible has occurred. This has happened to me more than once. Obviously, if we're exercising critical thought, we could say you're just noticing the times it appears to have worked. You're not noticing all the times you said, oh, I had a bad dream, I'm going to call in sick, and then Thursday was fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
I haven't had
that's a
that
good
before.
one.
That sounds real. My mom sometimes will call me and tell me about a terrible dream she had or something and make sure I'm okay. And something weird will match up, but never enough to be significant, I would say.
Right. And then it goes back to the way we experience time. So enough about us. We do want to hear about these experiences. And especially if you are skeptical and find yourself at a loss to explain, that dodged car accident or plane crash, we want to hear from you. We're going to end this evening with a word from our pal Gravy Dangerfield. Gravy Dangerfield, you say the following: I just listened to the Strange News segment where you asked for experiences with prophetic dreams and astral projection. I've never done anything like astral projection intentionally, but I've had a couple of dreams in my life that have completely upended my understanding of reality. where I've been able to verify the dream with another person and get the closest thing I could expect to objective proof.
The first happened when I was about 20 years old, in college. I was having lucid dreams several nights a week at that point, so I was familiar with the experience. One night, I was sleeping next to a new girlfriend I had been seeing for a few months, having a lucid dream where I was flying around. My go-to activity in lucid dreams. Perfect activity. Lucid dreams, as you may know, have varying degrees of control, and in this particular dream, I was totally in charge, which is why it startled me when my girlfriend, let's call her M, suddenly appeared. I asked her what she was doing here, to which she replied, "What do you mean? I'm dreaming."
No, you're not. This is my dream, I said.
"No, it's mine."
After a bit of back and forth and some other things, I woke up and...
Wait, what other things?
Yeah, other things, man.
Oh, okay, all right.
All right. Let's be cool. So you wake up, Gravy, and you look at M beside you. And Gravy say a second later, she opened her eyes, then quickly squeezed them shut, pretending to be asleep still. I told her I knew she was awake and asked why she was acting funny, and she tried to shake it off as, I just had a weird dream. Long story short, when I got the details out of her about that weird dream, it perfectly matched mine, except from her perspective. All of the details were the same for both of us, including things like that I glowed with a green aura and that she had an orange aura. Our surroundings, our dialogue, everything matched up.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the turn. The relationship lasted a few years. Well, that's nice. But nothing like that ever happened again, at least not with her. I should mention that I was sober and clear of mind for both of these experiences, though I have otherwise dabbled quite a bit with various mind-altering techniques, some of which the state did not approve of.
The state being the government at the time, not the legendary MTV comedy sketch group. Yep. Although that both things might be true. We don't know.
Yep. The state did not approve of and threw me in a cage over. Oh, that's not great. During one such incarceration, I had a dream in which I floated up out of my body, through the wall of the jail and across the county to a separate jail where I found an estranged friend of mine, and we let each other know that we were okay, but we had both been locked up.
Now, the only indication I had that my friend was at this jail was this dream. I shrugged and sent off a letter addressed to her there anyway. The reply came about a week later that she had a really weird, really vivid dream the other night that I came to visit her and tell her what happened.
Whoa!
Yeah. I love dream communication as a concept. In the 15 or so years since the second dream, says Gravy, it's all the same boring dreams we all have of losing teeth and fighting Lionel and punching through quicksand. But those two experiences still blow my mind to think about, and I'm as lost as I was the day they happened, as far as explaining WTF it was that we experienced. Anyway, stay safe out there. Gobble, gobble is the ending line.
Turkey. What do you mean? You calling us turkeys, Gravy?
Gravy Dangerfield.
Hey, get no respect over here.
This is exactly what we're asking about. No, honestly, Gravy, you may be surprised to learn that it's not uncommon for people who report experiencing these kind of dreams to describe auras. And I think it speaks to our earlier conversation regarding the idea of translating external stimuli to a largely visual medium in the brain. So maybe what might be experienced as touch, taste, smell, even proprioception or something, it gets translated as a color or energy around a person. Pretty cool, I guess. We also, did you see the news that people appear to have a low-key glow that disappears upon death?
I did. Like actual aura.
Yeah, well, we know people do have actual auras. Living things do have weak emissions of different types of energy. You just can't usually see it with your factory set of eyes if you're human.
So we need to get aura glasses going on.
We need to get aura glasses going on. They need to be tied to the right sleep technology.
Yeah.
And the first thing we need to do is monetize the heck out of it.
Yes. Take them to the club, but also to the bedroom. You know what I mean? It's perfect. Aura plus dreams equals win. You hear that, Tesla?
And ask about our new wet DLC.
Don't ask about it. Becomes factory standard.
It sure does.
Ben, can I tell you a quick dream I had last year, this exact same time, according to my dream journal?
Okay.
Ready? It's real quick. Quick. Not prophetic, unless it is.
Okay.
Let me preface this by saying this is my dream journal, like, directly, so I may have gotten things wrong or weird, but here goes. ET species resembling and functioning similarly to octopus are transmedium, as are exoskeletons. Suits have chromatophore functionality, can mimic surroundings automatically. Base located undersea, mothership returning several million years. Their observations: ape genome unfit for advancement, as was reptilian, insect variant most successful, experiment to be reset, another several million years, focus on new genome.
Great. Yeah.
Cool. That's it.
I think it's great. I feel like that we could write that out to a story if you wish. So I love the implication of the larger world at play, the iterative sort of Sisyphean pursuit of higher life and better understanding of the universe. And it reminds me too of, it's creepy how you and I are interested in so many of the same things. But I would love to hear more dreams like that. We have made a decision on the show that we're going to embrace other people's dreams.
That's right.
We want to hear about them.
That's right. So thank you so much, everybody. Gravy, Danger, Tellencore, Calamari,
Cant Sleep, Cheese out. Cheese out, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks, of course, to our long-suffering, legendary producers, Dylan, the Tennessee Pal Fagan, and Andrew Triforce Howard. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts, skeptical, spiritual, metaphysical, and beyond, on the nature of dreams. We're going through a dream phase right now, is what a lot of religious teachers would say. Nice little plot twist at the end. You can find us online, Conspiracy Stuff Shows, some derivation thereof, anywhere you sip your social meds. You can also drop us a line at our email address, give us a call on the telephone, or, just say the right code word in your dreams.
A code word like 1833-STDWYTK. What does it mean? It's a voicemail system. When you call that number, you're going to hear some stuff you might recognize, then you're going to hear a beep, and then you get 3 minutes, say whatever you'd like. When you conclude, make sure that in that message, you gave yourself a cool nickname, and you said whether or not we can use your name and message on the air. If you want to contact us in a different way, maybe with your hands, maybe with talk to text, why don't you send us an email? We are
the entities that read each piece of correspondence we receive. Be well aware, yet unafraid. Sometimes the void writes back. Were you a person dreaming you were a butterfly? Or are you a butterfly dreaming you are a man? Shout out to the Butterfly's Dream. Shout out to Einstein's Dreams by the legendary professor Alan Lightman. And shout out to the book recommendations you're going to share with your fellow listeners. We cannot wait to hear from you, awake, asleep, hypnagogic, or somewhere in between. Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.